Earlier this year, I was lucky to go out on the press launch of the new BMW M2, but BMW UK have got their press cars now in, so it's a chance to have a look at this one for a week. So let's have a quick look around it, and then we'll go out for a drive. So there it is, Zandvoort Blue. And one of the first things to say about this car is it's a big step up in terms of money over its predecessor, so £65,000, but you do get a lot of standard kit, and I don't think this car's actually got anything extra on it. So Zandvoort Blue is standard, or a no-cost colour. The 19-inch front, 20-inch rear wheels in that bi-colour finish, that's standard. Adaptive LED headlights as well, they're all standard. And the carbon fibre roof, that is standard in the UK. It's not elsewhere in a lot of other markets, but high spec in the UK means it's standard here. So very strong level of standard equipment. Also the seats as well, have a look at those inside, because there are 3 seats available worldwide, and I think the carbon fibre shelled ones are part of a £10,000 or so option pack. So you're not going to see those very often, I don't think, on the M2, but these are the standard seats in the UK. I really like them, they're really comfortable. I think they look really good as well. These are in the less sort of shouty, just blue stitching, no sort of big blue bits of colour that I've seen on some of them. So I really like that, and you get electric memory adjustment there, and they drop you really low down as well. I've had it a week, I've had my kids in it, and they're 12 and 15, and they're happy there. They've had plenty of space, and there's also loads of space for all our luggage as well, so it's been a really useful car in that respect. So there you go, nice big boot. That's all the boring stuff. Let's go and have a look on the road and see how it feels. So those 2 days I spent out in Arizona driving this car, really good, really enjoyed this car. And of course, you know, on a press launch though, you're more likely to want to push the car and to use it more aggressively. That's the point of driving them and understanding how successful they've been in achieving that brief. But one thing that you don't do is tend to spend a lot of time with them, using them as a regular owner might, and driving them on UK roads. So it's often Europe, in that case the US, and those roads are very different to the kind of roads that we get to drive on. So this is the first chance to do that for a week, and I've been driving around the country with the family, 4 up, loaded with luggage, and it's been really interesting actually. And one of the big things to understand with a car once you get it back in the UK is how it feels on UK roads, because they are quite different. And I would say, you know, this car, it felt pretty compliant. I would say in the US, nicely controlled. It's got slightly more of an edge once we got it back in the UK. I would say on sort of firmer surfaces, slower speeds, you do notice a certain kind of, I would call it a sort of robust sort of compliance. I took it to the trickiest B road I know the other night, and it did get bashed around a little bit in terms of on the rebound, stuff like that. But overall, I'd say I really like the way this car handles. If anything, I would put a more compliant setting in for the comfort setting. I just leave it in comfort all the time, don't even use the Sport and Sport Plus setting. I really like this engine. It's you know, it's smooth, it delivers its performance in a very linear way, a little bit of lag down low, but very strong, even though it's still the same weight as an M3, unfortunately, at 1,700 kilos, and you know, it still feels really punchy. Plus, when we were driving around the country, mostly motorways, some B roads as well, we weren't hanging around, 56 mile an hour average, and this is average 29.3 mpg with the auto. I should have mentioned we got the auto. That is no cost, so it's standard equipment, and you know, the official figures for that are 29.1, which somehow we beat. So I think getting this car into the low to mid 30s is definitely achievable. I spent most of the time in the manual on the press launch, and I'd say I really like that. It's a little bit clunkier around town. It's not like a Porsche in terms of slickness, and this is a really good choice, I think, for an all-round daily driver, the auto. I've messed around with the 3 settings. Almost taken up by a lorry there. Messed around with the 3 settings on the gear shifter, so you can increase the sort of ferocity and punch of the gear shift. I would say the 3rd setting, the most aggressive setting, is too aggressive for me, and it feels a bit fake, like they're trying to suggest it's as punchy as a DCT. And the nicer option is the 2nd setting in the middle that gives you some urgency with it without going over the top. The other thing that's still very much as it felt in the US is the kind of chunky stability you get with this car. It's a very stable feeling car, and yet it's very agile as well, which is an interesting mix. It's a mix I really like, so that the steering has this kind of purposeful heft. You just point it into a corner, pick your line, and it settles and goes. So very confidence inspiring, but I do think it also feels, as M advertises really, or as they say, like an M3 with more agility, and the front end is really strong, but you just get the sense all the time with this car that you're sort of guiding it from the back on the throttle. So even when you're not sliding it, you're always feeling like it's rear wheel drive. It's a very kind of extrovert rear wheel drive feeling. Even though you've got less power than an M3 as well, and the same weight, unfortunately, 1700 kilos, it is a very sort of extrovert feeling, so I like that very much. Now, the other things to point out with this car, again, really high standard spec in terms of the infotainment, stuff like that. So you've got Harman Kardon audio, so there is some road noise in this car, a bit more than I noticed in the US as well. Not loads. It's got a very kind of connected feel, so that's not surprising. But yeah, you get the Harman Kardon audio, and we're all coming back the other night having a good sing-along to that, and it's a much better system than in the Audi RS3 I had, for instance, a little while ago, which had a B&O system. So really good system, really good infotainment. I could say the interface would probably be, you could simplify it, which I think BMW are doing, but ultimately the sat-nav and the voice control, things like that, I really like. So all in, I really enjoy driving this car, and would I buy one with my own money? Yes, I would, is the short answer to that. So a few months after driving the M2 in Arizona, a week with it in the UK underlines not just how good it is to drive, but how versatile it is to live with. One day, hopefully, I'll have an M2 of my own.